Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Salty Roots. If you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel. My subscribers continue to go up slowly but surely, and I do appreciate all of you that choose to subscribe and follow the channel. Today we're going to do an update on the Waterbox 190.5 that you see behind me. It's been a few weeks since I've posted a video. I wanted to wait to do a 6-month update, but like I said, it's been a few weeks, so I wanted to get some content out there, and you are getting a 5-month and 2-week update. The tank itself is a Waterbox 190.5 Infinia Reef. The dimensions on that are 60.5 across, 25.3 is the width, and then the height is 22.6 inches. They list the tank on their site at a total water volume of 197.4, stating 136 gallons in the display. So I usually ballpark it at about 150 gallons, just because water displacement with the rocks, the sump's not completely full. So I don't know, that's, some of you in the comments may say you're way off on that kind of estimate and calculate it out the correct way, but I just kind of use 150 when I'm calculating how much to dose and things like that. From a timeline perspective, I got the tank on January 31st, and then water hit the tank on February 5th. I had a bit of an issue with ammonia. I overdosed. If you want to see that fiasco, take a look at one of my previous videos, but I eventually got the ammonia to the 2 parts per million, which is where I considered starting the cycle. That was on February 21st. And then as of February 26th, we were cycled. So again, about 5 months and 2 weeks to this point. It's been pretty smooth sailing, knock on all the wood. I've had a couple of issues here and there. They've been documented on the channel for the most part. Most notably the overflow sound. The tank was a little bit louder than I had liked. In my opinion, the emergency drain was, they pre-built all their plumbing, and the emergency drain was a little bit too low. When the MP40s kick on and push water, relatively quickly, it goes into the overflow box, causes a bit of a splashing noise. And so I raised that emergency drain up. That was easy, did not take long, and that immediately solved the problem. So I had the overdose of ammonia, I had a bit of a splashing noise there. The expected things, the usual suspects, right? I had the ugly stage where, some diatoms, and still dealing with some of the ugly stage. A bit of dinos, those have kind of shown their face a couple more times, but so far, at least not very much, so no big deal there. I've seen a couple of fermented snails. You've heard me on the channel say a couple times I can't stand fermented snails. So I picked those off as soon as I saw them. I have unfortunately lost a couple of fish, one being a carpenter's wrasse, which is totally on me. I don't have a lid on this tank. When I moved it over from the ProStar 90 to this tank, of course, told myself I was gonna get a lid, I gotta get a lid, and then I waited too long, and one morning found it had jumped. So that's on me. I did have 2 black onyx clownfish. That's actually the tattoo I have is a black onyx clownfish. It's always been my favorite. So I had 2 of those in here. And to be honest with you, one morning I woke up and I just could not find one of the clownfish. And to this date, I still have no idea where that clownfish went. I've looked everywhere. I've looked around the tank. I've looked in the overflow. I've looked in the sump. I've looked under the rocks as best I could. That's my guess, is that it's tucked, it passed and probably went under a rock somewhere. I didn't really have a huge nitrate spike, which is usually the case when you have, a dead fish rotting away in the tank. So the only other thing I could think is, in some of my other videos, you see the cats walking around. I know they technically could have picked one out with the clownfish staying kind of in one spot. I don't think that happened. It is a possibility. And another reason I need to get a lid. So that is strange. And like I said, to this day, I have no idea where one of those clownfish went. Outside of that, there's a few issues. I call them issues. It's more of kind of a space issue with my house and where I've put the tank, but like the cabinet in itself doesn't have a ton of space, and then I don't have room on the sides for equipment. And so we'll talk about that a little bit further when I do a tour of the actual tank. I'll show you what I mean. And then there's a few corals, specifically towards frog spawn and a bubble coral that aren't doing well in this tank right now. And I think it's largely due to the high flow for my SPS up here up top. So kind of a teaser and spoiler alert, I have a plan for those corals specifically. They're going to go into a new tank, and that'll be in an upcoming video. So outside of that, really, like, knock on wood, haven't had many issues, and I really do feel like rounding a corner into hopefully a lot of growth with these corals, getting closer to that 6-month mark, where you traditionally do start to see some substantial progress in most situations. All right, for equipment, when it comes to my lights, I have 3 Radion XR15 Gen 5 blues, and they work really well. I do eventually want to get a light bar to attach here on the front of these to supplement, but for now they're doing just fine. And then my pumps, I have 2 MP40s that I've had for quite some time. I want to say going on 8 years, and they're still working really well. They're a little bit louder. They've gotten louder over the years, and I've had some success taking this the dry side apart and adding some like O-ring lubricant to some of the parts, and that helps quiet it down a little bit. Side note, I do not recommend that you take your MP40s apart. These are just older units that are way beyond warranty, that I was okay with doing that to help quiet them down a little bit. So that's about it for the equipment on top of the tank. Down below, honestly, I don't have a ton of filtration or additional equipment. I have 2 filter socks. Those are the 7-inch socks that came with the tank. I clean those weekly when I do my water changes. Probably should do that a little bit more, but at least weekly I clean those filter socks out. I have an Aqua Ultraviolet UV sterilizer here. It's the 25 watt that I have running at a very slow flow rate right now, and that's mainly for parasites because I have a few tangs in the tank, and so I have it running slow. I have the opportunity, if I would like, to crank it up quite a bit. I have the Core 15 controlling, or the Core 15 is pumping water through that UV sterilizer, so of course I have a lot of controllability with that unit there if I wanted to crank it up for algae or anything like that. But again, just running it at a slow rate right now for parasite control. And then I have the dosing unit up there that's has the tubes, but it's not currently dosing anything. My dosing container is empty because the water changes, and just a hand manual dose by hand every now and then is doing just fine, but eventually I'll have to hook that up. The skimmer is the Reef Octopus 152S. It's okay, it does a good job, it definitely skims well. I typically run Bubble Megas on my other tanks. For this one I got this secondhand, and like I said, it does work well. I found that this air intake can be quite loud, but it just kind of is what it is. It's nothing too bad, it does work. The next chamber over is empty right now. It could definitely have macroalgae in there, but my nitrates are right where I want them to be, so I have no reason to add any macroalgae, and so maybe I'll add something to that down the road. Has a gate valve that comes standard with the tank, and then also an option to run some additional equipment off of this kind of elbow here. For a return pump, I have the Max Spec Jump at level 4, so that's running really low. That's where I found kind of the sweet spot to make the tank quiet. And then over there I have a Jabo auto top off that tops off this reservoir over here on the side. I think it's right around 13 gallons. Takes up a lot of space, and I would eventually like to get a smaller space saver auto top off reservoir, but for right now that's what I have. Over here I have my Apex, of course, and then the units for both pumps. On the side, those are the units for the MP40s. I have an Inkbird temperature controller. And then down here I have the Neptune Trident. That's about it. I wish that I didn't have to have all of my electronics in this cabinet here directly under the tank, but it is the space that I have. It's the way that this particular stand was built. They did not build a dedicated area just for electronics, and so I have them there. Ideally I'd have them in a cabinet outside of the tank, but because of where it sits, I have the stairs here and the wall here, so it's really my only option. On the livestock, we'll start with the fish. I have the powder blue tang. He's doing really well. And I also have a Tamini tang. He's back there in the corner. I have a sailfin tang. and then a blue hippo tang. So definitely have the tang gang going. They're all relatively small right now, and everyone is definitely getting along. And then I have a magnificent fox face there in the back. And then back there I have a black onyx clownfish. Vertebrates, nothing too crazy. I have, various snails in the tank. I have some turbos that really only come out at night. I have some hermit crabs. I have 2 emerald crabs. And then in the back I do have 1 cleaner shrimp. For the corals, we'll start on top with some of the SPS. I have some green slimer here in the ProStar 90. This was just one really large tree-looking green slimer that started to die off on the bottom. And so when I transferred it over, I broke it into smaller pieces and it's really started to thrive again. So I have a bit of the slimer there and then a bit of it over there. This I picked up at one of our local meetups. There wasn't actually a name on it. He was selling it for a good price and just said it's a fast growing acro. So I have that piece there. It's purple with some green around the base. I have a purple stylus. It's probably one of the best corals in the tank from a growth and health perspective. So that's doing really well. I have a very small millipora up here. Next to that, I have a Garth bonsai, just a classic coral. I have a lemon lime acro. It's doing okay. I get some polyp extension on that, but the colors aren't quite popping as much as I would like, but it seems to be doing okay. All right, up here I have my Bill Murray that has recovered just incredibly. This is the coral that, if you saw my other video, got knocked over and fell into the bubble coral and almost went completely white and is now almost completely recovered. So really happy about that. And then lastly, over here on the side, I have a bird's nest. A bit of that bird's nest is in the back there as well. And then this was just kind of a gimme coral when I bought some from a friend. I think at the time he had just said some type of rainbow that wasn't doing well in his tank. And he had just said, see what you can do. And it seems to be coming back. I have some polyp extension right now on it. In the back there, I do have a Monty cap. It's all green with some red on it. And that is it for my SPS. The LPS in the back, that's the bubble coral I had mentioned that is not doing too well. It's normally a lot bigger than that. So that will go into the new tank with some low flow. And then I have a Bower Banky that's doing really well right there. I have the frog spawn that's struggling. It's gonna get moved. I have an acan that's really happy. Above the acan, I have a blasto. I have this torch, again, not doing well at all. It's usually a little bit better than that. Right now it's really sucked in, but he'll get moved as well. I have a branching gold hammer. A space invader that's pretty happy. A rose goniopora. Moving around the side, I have a candy cane favia right next to a yellow submarine favia. And then down below, it's some type of chalice that I won in one of the local meetups as well. So I'm not sure what type that is. It was, I think, a raffle win. For the softies, I have some Pandora zoas here. They're on their own dedicated rock because they do spread very, very quickly. They're not the nicest looking zoa in the world, so just have them on their own dedicated rock. Got a small green toadstool there. I have some pink infusion zoas that are really taking over this rock and dominating all of the other zoas. I'm not 100% sure on this zoa here. I was out looking for a Rasta zoa. I'm not sure if that is one. I just know there's a lot of people that are a lot better with the zoa names than I, so maybe you can tell me what that one is. In the back, I have King Midas zoas that have never really taken off. They've always been extremely small. And then some blow pop zoas down there in the corner. Like I said, this pink infusion is really just overtaking the entire rock and all the other ones. I have a Devil's Hand, I have this hairy mushroom that I bought as one piece that has split into two and is really growing quite a bit. And then a Recordia mushroom here on the end. Only other coral, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I do have two anemones. They're just your basic rose bubble tip anemones that I have one back there. That was the one that I actually wanted in the tank. And the other one that snuck in is actually doing a little bit better. Got some of the acid splash going on it, look to it. And he's over here in the corner. They've both stayed put pretty much the entire time they've been in the tank. Neither of them have moved, so sure they will at some point. It's just part of it, but I pretty much keep an eye on the tank every single day, so should they move, I'll be ready for it. From a maintenance perspective on this tank, I do weekly water changes. So that's a whole nother topic of conversation. If should you or should you not, or do you have to or do you not have to do water changes? I'm absolutely all for water changes weekly as just an easy thing to do to minimize potential failure, points with the tank. And so I do 15 gallons weekly. If you're using that 150 number I threw out there, it's about 10% every week. It's pretty easy, and I do my best to not miss one of those. I have two filter socks. They're the 7-inch filter socks that hopefully I'll be able to replace with a roller mat at some point. But when I do my water changes, I take those out. I have a little contraption I put together with wood and PVC to put the filter sock on. And then I do a light power wash to get those cleaned off. And then from any additional cleaning, I of course clean the glass, dump my skimmer cup, and that's about it. I dust off my lights, as needed. And then the MP40s, the wet sides need cleaned off, but I honestly don't do that as much as I should. I'd like to say I do that every other water change, but I don't. I need to clean those more often. From a feeding perspective, I feed two cubes of mysis every single night. And then I do one full sheet of nori at least a couple times a week. As you'll see here in a little bit, I have a few tangs there, so they enjoy that. And then I do reef chili at least once a week for the corals, sometimes twice a week on the reef chili. So that is my feeding schedule, my cleaning / maintenance schedule. The only other thing I didn't mention from like a maintenance perspective is dosing. Right now my water changes is keeping up with my parameters and kind of where I like to keep them. I shoot for parameters of alkalinity at 8.5 to 9, calcium 420, magnesium 1400. What they actually are, I'll put those up on the screen here. But again, that's kind of my goal numbers. And so like water changes keep up with that pretty well. Every now and then I do need to dose a little bit of alkalinity, and I do that with Reefing. So I will dose that just by hand. I have the doser, and I have some dosing containers. Just really haven't needed to use it at least yet. The goal would be that I will need to use that as the corals continue to grow, but right now we're doing okay. From a nutrient perspective, my nitrates stay right around about 5 or 6, so that's great. Phosphate 0 to 0.05. I'm saying that kind of squinting just because I use the HANA checker, and the results are a little inconsistent there. For the nitrates, I use their new HANA high range checker, and so I think that works pretty well. I just get pretty consistent readings on that one, whereas the phosphate, it's kind of hit or miss. So I'm not sure. I think the best thing you can do there is take 3 tests and then average them out. That just takes a while. One thing I did notice though last night when I was testing the phosphate is I usually test it with the nitrate. The nitrate, you're supposed to shake the reagent, vigorously, as it says, to mix it up before you put it back in to the checker. I noticed that the phosphate says shake it gently. I did a little bit of Googling, and people have said if you shake it vigorously like I was, because I was shaking them at the same time, you'll get a misreading. And so now I've kind of switched to shaking it more gently. Once I did that, I was actually getting a reading. When I was shaking it, a lot, I was actually getting 0.0 almost every time. As soon as I kind of just tipped it over and gently shook it or gently mixed it, I started to actually get a reading of about 0.05, 0.06. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments your experience with the phosphate checker through HANA, but that's about where my nutrient levels are to date. And again, everything seems to be doing pretty well from a coral perspective. So thanks again for checking out another video. That's where we are as of today on the Waterbox 190.5. It is August 8th, 2024. Make sure you do go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with all the future progress of this tank.